I'm Anthony K of Sports Fluent. I'm here as always with the OG Jermaine from Chilltown Hoops. Jermaine, how you doing, man?
What up?
J-Dub, this is the NFL edition. And let's be honest, we were recording an NBA show a couple of days ago, and we got interrupted, rudely interrupted, by the New England Patriots, who wanted to tell us they made a little move at the quarterback position and named a starter, and his name isn't Cam. Mac Jones in as the number one, and they released Cam Newton. I think everybody saw my reaction to that. What do you think, one, about the move? Let's start there.
Well, it was obvious that Cam Newton wasn't the guy going forward. Whenever you win a competition, whether it's I'm trying to win the starting two-guard job, I'm trying to win the starting quarterback job, I'm trying to get in the rotation as a pitcher, time is of essence, which means I can't miss any time. I can't give this guy a leg up on me on any level. So when I got a guy like Cam Newton, who's in a quarterback competition with Mac Jones, who, by the way, is Belichick's guy, because him and Nick Saban are really cool. I mean, it's not a coincidence that, Nick Saban ends up being the guy that's Mac Jones's quarterback where he drafts him. So those guys are really tight. So he might not have been the guy from day one, but it was happening slowly but surely. It was happening. He was learning the system faster than what they thought he was. He was looking better each day, and the competition window was closing. It wasn't something that was just a wash, even though it looked like it was. We're going to have Cam as the starter, and he's going to sit behind him for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, a season. And then we're going to ease him in, and then Cam's going to move on. Only except he was progressing a lot faster than what they thought he was. He was doing a better job with reads. He was doing a better job in the huddle. He was commanding the huddle. Next thing you know, Belichick is looking at this guy thinking, this might be my starting quarterback. Well, Cam doesn't help the situation by 86ing himself from the lineup because of something like this. Which can compound the situation later on, Tone, because let's say we're in week, 6, and we're 4-2, and we're tied for first place with Buffalo, and Cam comes down with COVID. Now he's out for 2 weeks, or we're 8-2. Well, we can't have that. That's not something that not only that we can foresee that, but that's not something that we could have, because that could sink us, especially if this guy isn't ready. So it looked to me like Coach Belichick seems like Mac Jones is ready. And I think Cam played himself out of that competition more than Mac Jones wanted.
I've always kind of applauded most of the time that Bill Belichick can, because I think it's hard for him to do what he does, which is release a guy a year too early versus releasing him a year too late, right? Because that's tough to do, especially when someone's performed well. You want to give them that, that loyalty, that respect. People talk about a contract, thanking them for what they've done. He's never been that guy. He's always been the one that, I think next year's the year you're going to drop off. You're out. So I can see that if he saw what we all saw, which was Mac Jones was probably the better quarterback talent-wise, or he's going to be the better quarterback talent-wise, I could see that. What surprised me was they kept him so late into the offseason, and I thought Bill Belichick's plan was to start, like you said. It was to start Cam. There was never, it never crossed his mind that Mac Jones was going to be the day one starter. I think he thought they were lucky that even Mac Jones was available, right? Because the fact that Mac Jones slipped, because there was a lot of talk that he was a better fit. He was the more NFL-ready quarterback, even than Trey Lance, your guy in San Francisco. And that there was a lot of talk that maybe San Francisco would make a play for Mac Jones. And obviously they went with Trey Lance. So that part kind of, I think, happened, for them. It worked out well for them because he is the most ready of the bunch. Will he have the best career? We'll see.
Right.
I think, to your point, I think the COVID, those 5 days gave the Patriots, and not just Bill Belichick, but Josh McDaniels as well as the players, an opportunity to see how does Mac Jones run the team?
Think about that, Tone. For a whole week, we got a whole week with this guy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So how does he run the team? How does he run the offense? How is he in the film room? How does he work with the guys off the field, not just on the field? Because it's to be a quarterback,
right?
There's an immediate responsibility and leadership, right. Whether you want it or not. You're the quarterback, and Correct. The quarterback is just by default one of the leaders of the team in 99% of cases. There's exceptions, right?
Yeah.
But so now, how does he do that? Right? So that's now they got to see it. What's life like without Cam? Hey, you know what? It's not that bad. It's not that bad. But I will say this: I think, and I'm just speculating here, but I think because Bill Belichick doesn't really, for him to speak so highly of Cam, I don't think it was anything Cam did wrong on the football field. I think the COVID thing probably irked him a little bit, but I think you look at it and say, okay, Mac might be ready. He's getting all the reads, like you said. He's progressing faster than we thought. He has a hold of that offense. And here's the thing: the offense he came from was similar to what Belichick runs, whereas Cam, even though he's in year 2, it's a completely different thing that he's ever run in.
He's still learning it. Life. He's still trying to learn that offense.
So he's still actually. So I'm not surprised that Mac Jones picked it up quicker because it was a very similar offense he came from.
Correct.
So now you're like, okay, we've seen what he's like without him. He's a leader. The guys in the locker room respect him, which is super important, especially for a rookie quarterback. He's making the right reads. He's going to have mistakes. Like we're going to see Mac Jones week 3, week 4, and you're going to go, oh, why would he do that? Yeah, he's a rookie quarterback. He's going to do that. But he said, hey, we can live with those mistakes. And then I think he went to Cam and said, look, I think very highly of you. I want you, you have a spot in the NFL. I don't know that it's fair to you or to Mac Jones to have you sit and be his backup. If you think there's an opportunity for you to go somewhere else where you'd rather be a backup or where you might have a chance, a fighting chance at a starting job, we'll release you. We'll do that for you if you want, because you're right. And I think they had that conversation.
Absolutely.
And, I don't think it was a surprise to Cam. I think, it might have been a surprise to us.
Absolutely. They had that conversation, Tone, because what we can't do is we can't just ship you off. We absolutely have to sit down as professionals and go, well, listen, I don't see you sitting behind Mac Jones, because I'm a firm believer. I've always been a firm believer, Tone. We can't move on with the new thing until the old thing is gone. And as long as Cam is there, he's sitting behind Mac Jones, and there's that looming issue. When's Cam going to come in? Is Cam over? Is Mac Jones screws up? And then if Cam is on the field, when's Mac Jones going to come in? I think there's an old saying in football: if you got 2 quarterbacks, you don't have none. You don't have one. So with that being said, those 5 days that you mentioned, turns out, we got a really good quarterback here. He looks really good in the 2-minute drill. He looks good in the pocket. He looks good in the gun. He looks good at making reads, and we might have our guy right now. And what it does, Tone, is it rewinds the clock for me back to 2001 when Bledsoe got hurt. Now, remember, everybody talks about Bledsoe being hurt. Belichick wanted to start Brady day 1 that season.
I was just about to bring that up.
He was about to he wanted to start Brady, but don't forget, Bledsoe had just signed a contract extension. And not only did he sign a contract extension, New England was supposed to be really good that year. And Belichick didn't want to screw him up, but he thought that he was the better quarterback. Now, it helped him that Bledsoe got hurt, because now that takes Belichick Coach Belichick off the hook.
You don't have to make the decision then. The decision is made for you. Absolutely.
That takes him off the hook. So now we're in a situation with what's next for Cam. All right. Because, New England is out. I'm going to tell you right now, Tone, keep him away from the New York Giants. I don't care what anybody says about
no.
Keep him away. If I'm the New York Giants, I got a young quarterback in Danny Dimes, and I don't want to screw him up. And if I bring somebody in here like Cam, the logic is going to be, well, that's going to be good competition for him. Yeah, but you also might screw him up psychologically. And I don't want to do that. I need this guy to know he's our guy, and we're building it around him because he's getting better. And as you know, Tone, I think that the Giants are a sleeper in the NFC this season. You already know how I feel.
Listen, I know how you feel. And that's the thing, is the Giants they've put the pieces around Daniel Jones to see what he could do. The last thing you want to do now is mess with his confidence. I hate to say it, everyone's like, they're professionals. No, I don't care. In any job, if you're doing your job and they bring in someone who's done your job,
that's how thin the confidence is.
Yeah, they've done your job. It doesn't matter how confident you are. It starts to knock on you, and then you're always kind of looking over your shoulder, and you can't move forward if you're looking over your shoulder.
Right.
So let's talk about that. So, what are some teams that make sense? Because you're right, you don't want to put them into where there's a young quarterback, right? So that you've now eliminated a number of teams that have young quarterbacks. You're not going to bring him in, I don't think, unless he wants to, where there's an established superstar. Like you're not going to bring, Kansas City, as an example. You're not going to bring him into where you have your quarterback.
Dallas, Kansas City,
Dallas.
Like
well, it depends. I will say Dallas. Hold on. I will say it depends on Dak.
No, they already but they already had their quarterback situation shored up. They got their second and their third guy already shored up, and then that means that they got to cut somebody, and then it's going to be a situation with him and Dak where now it's, even though Dak is the guy, bringing him in, it's going to cause some conflict where, if Dak gets hurt, it's going to be similar to what Andy Dalton was last year, and I don't like him, and I do not like Cam in Dallas. There's one place that I feel like Cam can go.
Okay,
I love him in Houston.
That's the one I was going to say. So you can't bring him in. So you can't bring him in where there's an established quarterback. You can't bring him in where there's a really good young quarterback. You wouldn't take him to the Chargers as another example.
Nope.
Okay. But Houston, and this is no disrespect to Tyrod Taylor, who would have been the starter in LA last year, if not for a freak medical incident.
Correct.
But do you feel that Tyrod is a give me a shot to make the playoffs quarterback in Houston? I don't know. Is Cam an upgrade from Tyrod?
Yes.
You know what? I think he is.
Yes.
So yeah, I think that one actually makes a lot of sense. And that's where you're looking. Where's there a veteran? Where's the team that has that stopgap, I hate to say it, quarterback? And that's probably the best one.
Well, that when you talk about Cam at this particular juncture in his career, that's where he is. He's a stopgap quarterback. He's not the guy we're moving forward with, like Tua, like Deshaun Watson, like Daniel Jones. We're not moving forward. Cam is no longer a franchise quarterback. So he's somebody to shore up what we're doing in the meantime. And a team like Houston, where we can stay competitive and there's not a lot of expectation, especially losing Deshaun Watson, to have him come in there. Now, I feel a little bit bad for Tyrod. Yes, I do, because I dig Tyrod. I remember him in San Diego last year. I remember what he looked like in Cleveland. I just remember.
He looked really good in Buffalo.
He did not look bad. They went to the playoffs.
Yeah, he looked good. Yeah.
He took them to the playoffs in Buffalo. So the problem is I think Cam is a better quarterback than Tyrod Taylor. And him having to go to Houston to play behind Cam after doing all that he did in the preseason, I think that would be a knock on his confidence. However, what we can't fight the fact that I think Cam is a better quarterback. I do think he's a better quarterback, and I think it's a better situation for Cam. I don't like him in any other situation. None of those. I don't like him in Pittsburgh. I don't like him in Cleveland. I don't like him in Cincinnati. Anywhere where you have a young.
You just named ones that have young quarterbacks, Cincinnati and Cleveland, and one that has. Now, if Ben gets, here's the thing, maybe Cam sits, unfortunately, for a couple of weeks, and then if Ben gets hurt, right, he is pushing 50 years old. I love you, Ben. Maybe that makes sense to then bring him in, because that's not same type of guy as Ben Roethlisberger, but in the sense that, like, he's a big, can throw the ball deep, can run. Who knows? We don't even know what we're getting out of Ben this year. Let's be honest. At that age, I hate to say it, coming back from an injury, you don't really know. Like, yeah, he looked good in the preseason, but
to be quite honest with you, Tone, I watched them last year, and I bought the fool's gold. I did. I bought it, and I was on the hook, looking at their offense. All my guys were telling me this Pittsburgh team is a fraud. Listen to me when I'm telling you, they're a fraud. I'm like, what are you talking about? They 10-2, and they're 8-1. They got a good. No, they're a fraud. I'm telling you. And sure enough, when they get into the playoffs and Cleveland basically shoves the ball down their throat and they don't do anything about it, it's obvious to who they are. And Ben, I think he'll be 40 this season. I think before the season's
over.
Yeah,
I believe so. Yeah.
I think before the season's over, he'll turn 40. I personally think this is his last season in Pittsburgh. I don't think he's coming back after this season.
I feel like last season, if he didn't get hurt, was going to be his last season. I would have. Yeah. That's what I was saying. So I think you're right. I think he's just coming back because he wants to. He wants to finish it. He wants to compete, and he sees the record that they had last year and said, "Hey, there's an opportunity. We got one more shot at this." And listen, what superstar player, if they think they have one more shot, doesn't take that one more shot? So you brought up actually two players. It was interesting. You said them one right after the other, and it's exactly what I wanted to ask you about. So we know we've kind of dealt with Cam, Mac Jones. Every time I talk to a Miami Dolphin fan, they always tell me about how great Tua is going to be. And I always tell them, I don't think so. I said, no, he's got all the tools. And I said, I don't think so. And they said, well, the Dolphins believe in him. He's their starter. Here's their guy. That's why they let, Fitzpatrick go. And I said, well, how come every time Deshaun Watson's name comes back up, Miami's the first team that you hear? And where there's smoke, Jay, there's fire.
Absolutely.
So if every time someone brings up Deshaun Watson's name as possibly coming back because the off-field stuff is who knows what's happening there, the first team that's always mentioned is Miami.
Let me ask you a question, Tom. Let's take the off-field stuff off the table just for a minute. Is Deshaun Watson the top 5 quarterback?
Yes.
Absolutely. So with that being said, if the Miami Dolphins get a phone call from the Houston Texans and they go, Tua for Deshaun Watson and maybe 3 ones. If you're the general manager, and I love Tua, I think Tua is the future of their franchise. I do. I love him. My knock on him coming out of school was one thing and one thing only: his ability to stay upright. I didn't like him in terms of his health. I always thought that he was a real cerebral quarterback. I thought he had a great arm, his ability to be mobile in the pocket and to evade defense. I always dug that about him. However, if you're the general manager of the Miami Dolphins and the Houston Texans call you and they say, hand over Tua and 3 ones and we'll give you Deshaun Watson, and you pass, you're fired on the spot. You're not fired over the course, because there's no way that can get out, Tone. There's no way that can get out. That the Texans offered up Watson and they asked you for Tua and 3 ones and you said no. There's no way that can get out and you can keep your job. No way. Because we're talking about a generational quarterback here. Watson isn't a good quarterback. In 20 years, we're going to be talking about him with Mahomes. Like who were the great quarterbacks during that time? Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, guys like that. And you had an opportunity to get them and you passed. So the reason why this keeps coming up is because of how great Watson is. It's not because they don't believe in Tua. It's because we got an opportunity to get a better quarterback right now. And
right. Well, I always say and this is what I always say to the Dolphin fans that bring this up. I say, hold on. Let's say you had Tua and Watson on your roster. Who are you starting? And it's Watson 10 times out of 10. It's not a question. So then don't tell me you'd rather have Tua than Watson, because it's not close. And it's, again, listen, maybe I'll take away how I feel about Tua and say, okay, fine, it's not a knock against Tua, although for me it is. But let's say it's not a knock against Tua. Mm-hmm. Who's a better quarterback? And it's Watson by far. Like, it's not close. It's not close. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm going to throw some teams at you. It's our last piece of the day. I want you to do, so ESPN did this. I liked it. So it's called like ceiling floor. So I'm just going to randomly pick teams, and you tell me what you think is their best chance this season. They're going to win X amount of games, and at their worst, if everything goes wrong, how many games? And I'm going to start with one of the Super Bowl favorites, the Buffalo Bills. What's going to be their ceiling wins?
They're winning the whole thing.
Number of wins.
No, I think they can win 14 games. I do. I think that they can win 14 games. Absolutely. If Josh Allen can stay upright, the health of the quarterback is everything. The health of your quarterback is everything. That defense is stout. Their running game is correct. If they can stay healthy, I think at the ceiling, I think they can win 14 games.
So 14 and 3
could be the best team in the AFC. I do think that.
Now let's try to keep injuries out of it, because that's, if Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs and everybody gets hurt, sure, they're going to win none. But if everyone's relatively healthy, but the ball doesn't bounce their way, let's say, what do you think is their floor?
I still think they win 10 games.
You think at worst they're a 10-game team,
barring
injury.
Barring and no injuries no injuries, but they get a couple of bounces that don't go their way. I still think Buffalo wins 10 games minimum.
The Cleveland Browns.
I think Cleveland, their ceiling, I think they can win 11 games. Barring injury, they could be a 5-12 team. They could absolutely be a 5-2 because, and I've said this to you before, Tone, that ODB Baker dynamic. I can't put my finger on it. I don't know what the problem is. I love Baker and Landry. I love those two, but this ODB and Baker thing is just not working.
So you think whatever's there that maybe we don't see it or they don't talk about it. You think that internal kind of combustion could kind of,
and I don't think it's a
derail their plans.
Yeah, and I don't think that there's a personal problem between them two. I'm looking at it like the best example I can give you, Tone, is remember how everybody was so excited when Chris Webber went to Philadelphia with Allen Iverson? It just didn't work.
I was excited. I liked it.
Right. It sounded like a great idea. Like, yo, this is going to be great. Only except we looking at it and we thinking, yeah, this isn't really working out like we thought it was. And the same thing's going on with, and those two were the best of friends, but it just didn't work. It's the same dynamic with ODB. It's not that he doesn't work hard because he's an exceptional receiver. He's a great route runner, ridiculous freak athlete, and Baker's getting better every year. There's something going on there, Tony, that I can't put my finger on, man.
Adversity. And Baker's been through adversity, so I think he can handle it, but I think people don't put enough weight into team chemistry. And it only takes a couple of losses for, especially a wide receiver. Listen, I used to be one, so I'll be the first one to tell you. If we lose and you don't throw me the ball, well, that's on you. That's why we lost, right? Because you didn't throw me the ball.
Yep.
Beckham's going to say that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if he's forcing it to Landry because he likes Landry, or they're running the ball too much because they've obviously got two great running backs, and they lose, you're going to hear that. Maybe he has a right to, maybe he doesn't, but you're going to hear that. And then what happens? You know what happens. If the wide receiver starts chirping, and then the quarterback either freezes him out, well, now the locker room's picking sides, or he says, "Oh, he's right. Now he starts forcing him the ball. Guess what happens? Now everybody else starts going, what the heck's going on? And you start forcing the ball, and you know what happens. Listen, we saw it in Chicago. Jay Cutler and Brandon Marshall. We thought, amazing, after what they did as young guys in Denver. Woo! But he forced the ball to Brandon so much, and it was pick after pick, and I'm like, in the red zone, I'm just like, there's a tight end kind of waving, please throw me the ball.
You're ready to strangle him, Tom. You were ready to kill him.
I was going to kill him. But then part of me was also like, I get it. That's the golden goose, and you got to feed the golden goose, right? You can't let it eat. So I'm hopeful that doesn't happen, because I think Cleveland, they have a legitimate shot for the first time since Jim Brown at having some serious success, and so I hope they do well. I really do. All right, let me give you another one here. Okay, this was fun because I think the answer might be on one of them. Might be one. The Jacksonville Jaguars. Ceiling. Start with the good.
8-9 is their ceiling. Winning 8 games, I think that's their ceiling. I've loved Lawrence from the minute I saw him at Clemson. I saw him and I was thinking, if my 49ers, if we could move up and just stay bad. So, because I think that this guy's the quarterback of our future right here. I love him, and I think that they're going to be great with him. The problem is that running game. Their defense is trash. He's gonna have to do a lot for them in order for them to win. So at the ceiling, I think that at his best they can win this season. They can win 7, maybe 8 games. He's gonna take a lot of bumps and bruises. A lot. Yeah. He's gonna take a lot of bumps and bruises, and I don't think that they'll go 0-16 or 0-17 or 1-16. But I think at the lowest, I think they'll win 2, maybe 3 games.
I had them a ceiling as 8-1. Mm-hmm. I still want teams to be 500, so I throw in a tie. So they trade away Gardner Minshew. Is that a fit for Cam?
No. Mm-mm. And
You don't think you see him as like a mentor of a? Yeah.
Nope.
Okay.
And well, the reason, once again, Tone, I don't mind a quarterback like Lawrence sitting behind a guy for a year. And I've said this before. I think Josh Allen could have stood to sit behind somebody for a season. Patrick Mahomes sat behind somebody for a season. I don't mind Trevor Lawrence sitting behind somebody for a season. Now, if Cam was in training camp from day one, I have no problem with that. We kind of got this thing rolling now, and we opening up the season. The last thing we want to do is bring somebody in here, and you're going to start messing with this kid's confidence. He thinks he's the guy. You bringing somebody new in here, now you're saying to him, well, we still think you're the guy, but if you could just maybe sit back. No, because you're going to start screwing with him, and you're going to screw him up. No, keep Cam away from Jacksonville, too.
So I know that you're high on this team. It's kind of like your sleeper, so I'm going to ask you about them. The New York Football Giants.
I think the Giants, with that defense that they have, they're getting Barkley back this season, and he's going to be ready to roll. I think they can win 11, maybe 12 games.
Wow.
I think they can win 11. Because I think Daniel Jones is going to be a lot better this season than what he was last season. I think he's going to be a lot better. That offense is going to be better. They got a big-time tight end in with the Giants. So I just think that offense is going to be much better than what it was last year. And don't forget, Tone, they were, I think, the last 2 weeks of the season, they were in the midst of winning the division. The New York Football Giants were. I know it's trash.
That has to do with the division. Come on, but right. But you're right. You've got when you look at I always look at what's you know this. I always look at what's around the quarterback. One, obviously, do they have at least a good offensive line? It doesn't always have to be great, but it can't be where they're running for their lives. Like
on every play.
Yeah, I feel terrible for Russell Wilson. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about can they give you like 2 seconds, 2.5 seconds of protection for you? Then who are the skill positions around you? And when you're looking at like Golladay and Shepard and Ingram and Barkley, he's got weapons and others, right? But he's got weapons. So there's no excuse this year for the Giants, right? At least specifically for Matt Jones. Mm-hmm. He can't say, I don't have a defense because he's got a defense. I don't have weapons. They spent probably too much money to bring in Golladay so that he has enough weapons.
They did.
So, okay, now you got to show us what you can do.
Mm-hmm.
What's their so I had them at like 10. What do you think their floor is?
What it was this season that just passed? 5 wins.
5 wins.
If they go backwards and Danny Dimes can't minimize. The key to this is him minimizing mistakes. That's the key. We can't have Danny Dimes throwing picks in the red zone. We can't have him fumbling the football on 2nd and 4 and killing drives. We can't have that. And if that's something that's going on constantly, I think their floor is 4 or 5 games. And then now we got to start reevaluating the quarterback. Do we have the right guy?
We talk a lot about the Bears and even the Packers, so I'm not going to ask you that. I'm going to ask you a different one from the NFC North. The Minnesota Vikings.
I think the Minnesota Vikings, even though I love Jefferson, I know who Kirk Cousins is. And he's shown constantly when the lights are the brightest, he withers. That's who he is. He's shown that. So even if they do make the playoffs, it's gonna in the NFC. To win the NFC North, which I don't think that they're gonna win, but to be a wild card in the NFC, it's gonna take 11 wins. I don't think Minnesota wins 11 games. I don't. I think that their ceiling is 9. I'll give them 9, maybe 10 wins.
Yeah, I only give them 10 because it's an odd year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something about the Vikings in odd years. They play well. Floor?
4.
4
wow.
Wins. Yeah.
Because first of all, we know who Dalvin Cook is, but Dalvin Cook stays nicked up too. He's one of the in my opinion, he's one of the best running backs in the league. But he stays nicked up, and when he gets nicked up, he's nicked up for a week, 2 weeks. When he's in and out of the lineup like that, that really screws them up.
Right.
And But we're going off of them not being injured, and if they're not
being injured, healthy,
we're completely healthy, then that offense is run by Kirk Cousins, and we know who Kirk is.
Yeah,
we already know who Kirk is.
I think they're good for 5-6 wins. Again, we're assuming barring injury, but even if Cook gets hurt, I do like Madison coming in. I do like their backup. Obviously, he's not Delvin Cook though, so I hear you. All right, this one's going to be a really tough one because I am really, really high on these guys, and especially their starting quarterback, which I might be in the minority on that. The New Orleans Saints.
Why are you so high on the Saints, Tone? What's your story with the Saints?
I really like Jameis Winston. I think he might be the most underrated quarterback in a long time, and I think people saw what he did in Tampa, and they talk about the 30 interceptions. But they don't talk about the 30 whatever touchdowns. They don't talk about Bruce Arians' offense, which is purposely meant to take chances, and you're going to throw a lot of interceptions. And so you put him into a system with Sean Payton, who I think is a really – look, I'd never put the word genius on anybody because I think, one, there's very few. And like when they call Sean McVay and, the boy – no, he's not that smart. I'm sorry. But that being said, I really like the way Sean Payton creates his offense. So now I've got a quarterback who is really underrated. I think he's got a great arm. I think in this system, he's not going to – look, is he still going to throw 15 interceptions? Yeah, maybe. But he's also probably going to throw about 35 touchdowns. And I think I look at Traquan Smith, who I think is going to be going to have a breakout year at wide receiver. I think Alvin Kamara, who is I think proved last year could be an every down back, and he's a definite threat out of the backfield. I think their defense ranked in the top, I think 5 or 6 in every statistical category. So they're a very underrated defense. So if I have a defense, I have a superstar running back, I have a really good quarterback, and I have some weapons on the outside, they're going to be better than you think. Now, are they going to dethrone Tampa Bay? No, they're not. But are they going to be the second best team in the NFC South? Yes. Are they going to make the playoffs? Yeah, I believe so. Are we going to have a lot of fun watching them because you're going to be like, you're not going to say Drew Brees who, but you're going to be like, wow, these guys are like, they're going to put up numbers and they're going to be fun to watch. And I think the Michael Thomas thing needs to get resolved. Either quickly. Ship him off, get rid of, look, he doesn't want to be there. Get rid, just go. I don't care. Go. You can bring in other wide receivers. They won't be as talented. I get it. Michael Thomas is a really good wide receiver. Correct. I don't want to say great. I think he's really good. I think he benefited from where he was. So I think you move on from that and you just go. And I think they've got the pieces to be really competitive.
Now I will tell you this, Tone. Before Jameis Winston's last season in Tampa, which by the way, you said he threw 33 touchdowns. Nobody else, they don't talk about the fact that he also threw for 5,000 yards that year too.
Yeah, right.
It wasn't like he threw for 20. He threw for 5,000 yards that year. Now, with that being said, before that season, Winston averages about 22 touchdowns and about 15 interceptions for his career. So this is who this guy is. He's about 22 and 15. Now, I do think that he's a better quarterback than Taysom Hill. I absolutely think that. I love Kamara. I'm a huge fan of the workhorse back. I've always been a fan of the workhorse back ever since I was a kid. Walter Payton, Emmitt Smith, Eddie George. I'm a huge fan of the workhorse back, and I think Alvin Kamara is a workhorse back. If Jameis can cut down on the mistakes, which, by the way, you also mentioned, Tone, that offense that he was in with Bruce Arians. Are we clear that Tom Brady threw the third most interceptions of his career running with Bruce Arians?
Exactly. That's the offense.
It's not like Tom threw 2 or 5. That's the third worst. It's tied for the third worst when he was running with Bruce Arians. So it's not like he's the quarterback whisperer, because no, he's not. Let's dead that. No. If Jameis can relax on turnovers, take care of the football, and I think this offense is good for him, to be quite honest with you.
Me too.
Because what it does is it features his ability to throw the long ball. It features his ability to be mobile in the pocket, which he's good at. And Jameis is a lot smarter than people give him credit for. He's a lot smarter than people give him credit for. However, he is prone to make mistakes, and if he can cut down on those mistakes, Kamara can take care of the football, and they can resolve that Mike Thomas situation, I think the Saints can win 11, maybe even 12 games.
I have them. I have them at 12.
I think
and I went back and forth, but I said 11 or 12, 11 or 12, and I said, I'm going to err on the side of I believe in them, so I'm going to go 12.
Mm-hmm.
Now the downside is, let's say Jameis has another 30 interception year. What's their floor?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's not going to. Coach Payton
might never get to that. Yeah,
no, Coach Payton is not going to let him get to that. Absolutely not. I think he's going to put him in a situation where he's just the best that he could possibly be. But I think the floor for them, 7 wins.
Yeah, I had 6.
Yeah, I got 7 wins.
But I think 6, 7 is it would be like Tampa, right? Because if you look at it, when he did throw 33 touchdowns and 5,000 yards and 30 interceptions, they didn't win, which makes sense.
Correct.
Now, I think I even forgot about Taysom Hill. He's going to add a dynamic as well, right? That's going to keep when you have a guy like him there, Sean Payton's going to have a trick or two, plays up his sleeve where Winston and Hill are on the field at the same time, and it's some kind of pitch back, throw back. And I think we saw an example of that in the playoffs, right? Everyone talks about Jameis Winston has the best playoff QBR ever in the history. 1 throw, 1 touchdown.
That's correct.
And it was deep. Like it was a deep ball. So I think you're going to see those wrinkles from Taysom Hill too. So I like that. Last one, and we're going to go to – I'm not going to put you on the spot and ask your team, but I'm going to ask you about a team in your division because we talked about him running for his life. The Seattle Seahawks.
10 wins. I think that's their ceiling. They did a better job of shoring up that offensive line. He's still got weapons on the wings, and Russell Wilson is Russell Wilson. I mean, he was, I think it was week 4 that we were talking about him as the league MVP. He's just a dynamic quarterback, and as long as he's on your team, you have a shot to win. Absolutely. Now,
I have him at 11. But for all kind of the similar reasons, yeah.
I think that he's the engine offensively that makes them go. Now, defensively, we might have a couple of holes. However, that defense is stout in Seattle, and we all know. And you and I have had this conversation. We all know what they're like because now they got the 12th man coming back. So we all know what it's like in Seattle. I think that they could win 11 games. I think that their floor, if they go to pieces, I'm giving them 6 wins. I'll give them 6 wins.
I have their floor being higher at 8. But the only reason I have it being at 8 is I think playing in Seattle, that's 6 wins. I think that's at minimum they get 6 out of 8. Right?
Unless they play Arizona, that's it.
Unless they play, that's one of the 2 losses, right? Is going to be Arizona, which still baffles my mind. So I think they're 6. I think they win 2 on the road, right? Like I don't see how they get less than 8. Again, we're assuming they're healthy, right? So yeah, maybe 7, 8's the number because it's just you're right. I think we underestimate. Not every home field gives you a big enough advantage where I think it can change the course of a game. But I don't know if I've told you this story. I've been not knowing, if you could believe this, I didn't realize there was a home game. And so I used to travel to Seattle. A company I worked for, their headquarters was there. And I stayed at it's the iCloud Hotel. And it's right across the street from the stadium. And I thought this would be kind of cool because we can go check out the stadium, whatever. Didn't realize, I think I stayed a day extra. I was supposed to leave on Saturday. I stayed till Sunday. So I had a late checkout. Telling you guys way too much personal information, but whatever. So I did my thing. I went downstairs and checked out, did my stuff, and there was a restaurant facing the stadium, and it was packed. And they said, "Hey, sir, you're probably best to just wait until the game goes a little bit longer." And I said, "Oh, I completely forgot they were playing at home this week." And I said, "Just wait. Once everyone's kind of in the stadium, it'll be really easy to get a taxi and get to the airport, etc." And I said, "Okay, fair enough." So I go to the bar, I sit down, I order some food. I'm like, oh, this will be good. I've got, multiple games up, which obviously that's what I was going to do anyways. Yeah. So I'm watching some games. I'm eating some food. When I tell you, Jay, the windows in the restaurant across the street that I was at were shaking when they scored a touchdown, right? Like I saw it on the screen, and you see the camera, and you're like, oh, this is so entertainment, where they make the camera shake to make it look like, there's a big ruckus going. No, man, the windows in the restaurant of the hotel across the street were shaking. And I went, that's a home field advantage. That's a home field advantage.
January of 2014, the only reason why I felt like we weren't going to the Super Bowl is because we had to go up to Seattle in the NFC Championship. If we could have got them in San Francisco, I think we would have been in the Super Bowl. I just felt like we can't beat these dudes strictly because it's up there. I mean, we're talking about Frank Gore is standing 5 feet away from Kaepernick, and they're doing this, and you still can't hear each other. That's how loud it is in there.
And what you just said is part of it. You just said, I had a feeling going in that we can't win as a fan. Imagine if even a little bit of that is in the players and the coaches that, oh my God, we got to go up there.
Yes.
What an advantage mentally too, right? It's just as important. So, all right. So we got them at kind of 10, 11, 6, 7 as their floor. That's it for this week for Fluent and Chill, the NFL edition. Until next week.
Take it light, but take it.